Hi, my name is Antoine, and I'm a shamanic ceremonialist and healer. Today I thought I'd carry on with these videos about shamanism basics and talk about intent. This is a word you'll find a lot in various books and videos about shamanism. It was a very key word really in the books of Carlos Castaneda. And the purpose of the video is not really to analyze what was happening or described in those books. One could question whether it is shamanism. In any case, there are many interesting concepts, key concepts there, and they're all applicable to shamanism, or many of them are applicable to shamanism. So, what is intent? What purpose does it serve? In shamanism and also in our healing journey. Shamanism is really about healing. The shaman person is a healer. He's someone who brings healing to various areas of human experience. So intent. Many years ago I underwent a very radical and difficult transpersonal experience, extremely brutal and extremely radical. And that experience left me in a state of loss of identity and fragmentation, you could say, which was very deep at the time. And I couldn't really grasp or fathom what had happened to me. It took years to really understand and integrate this experience. But in the state of extreme fragmentation and suffering that went with it, one thing happened in a way. In the state where I was, being extremely open to the invisible world, although this really was more terrifying than anything. And I had no map at all at the time. In this openness, I started listening to or noticing that certain things seemed to be guiding me, helping me in a helpful way, helping me. So those were tiny things initially, but I started kind of trusting something. I had nothing to lose, really. So any indication of coherence and positive synchronicity for me, or inner indications, were things I started to give space to and treasure, again because I had nothing to lose. One of the things that happened is at one point after about a year in that experience, I found myself in a place where there was a martial arts school, and I'm having also great physical problems also from the experience I'd had. I couldn't do the practice, but I was always very attracted to the martial arts. So I did, you could say, soft or feminine practice that was present in that school, and it was a very important one. This was also a school with an esoteric teaching, and the art itself also has roots in, this being an Indonesian art, has roots in a very animistic and shamanistic past. There are other layers, more recent ones, but the oldest aspects of it are animistic and shamanistic. So this other practice, something apart from the circumstances that was basically in the end the only thing I could do, something in me, in the state of fragmentation and again loss of self identity. This is very difficult to describe, or at least in this video. Something drew me, and I felt moved, I felt compelled to do this practice. And at the time I ended up being fairly homeless. So I was sleeping in the back rooms of that school, and I have to thank the people in that school, all of them. And at night I'd be alone in that school. And at night I'd come out from the tiny room at the back of the school and go on the mats. And I'd start practicing this thing I'd learned, the basics of it. And very quickly I found myself in a state I knew through other experiences when I was much younger, but I could not really describe. I just knew in that state I suddenly felt my body was moved in a certain way. And a sense in me said, let it happen. Some voice inside of me said, let it happen. So my body started moving in that practice through the movements and the flow of that dance. But something took over, and my body was moved and twisted in certain ways, or I had to stay in certain postures for 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Something in me said, trust this, go with this. This is, you have to do this, just let it happen. So although this was extremely weird to me, another part of me in this, and sometimes a feeling of external benevolence told me to keep going. And I just did this for hours. And I'd do this pretty much every night. And what happened in this state, I felt I entered into a widened state. Something was happening where I was moved beyond my self and its extreme struggle into another space. And in that space I started having these movements and things happening to my body, but I also started receiving some intuitions, guidance, intuitions really, flashes about what was going on, certain memories I'd have to go through, certain understandings of what I might or should do. And to start with, I didn't have at all a very clear perception of individual experiences in that practice. Before that, when I had that extreme transpersonal experience, I had contact with very defined consciousnesses. And in that state, initially I just had a kind of inner tuition or voice, sometimes felt internal, sometimes external, most of the time internal. And eventually something in me said, you can go and fetch what is missing from this kind of explosion you had in you, those bits, because I felt as if I had some immense hole inside of my psyche and I could not find the center of myself. This is another subject perhaps was going on for another video, but I knew I could go and fetch certain things and repair. So I had no map at the time. I had barely any contact or understanding with the notion of shamanism. I just knew something was saying I could do that. So I started realizing I could travel within that state, or the guidance was saying I could travel. So I started traveling, and I was moving with intent. At the time I didn't know I could call that intent, but I would aim my will and intention towards this idea of becoming whole again, of fixing those missing parts, and also of moving beyond that extreme fear I'd had and I was still experiencing. So within the trance state, because this turned out to be a trance state, I understood years afterwards, and a deeper and deeper trance state, I knew I could point, in a way, my arrow into a certain direction. I could not master what was going on, all of it. I could not have, just by my own strength, the power to heal myself immediately or repair things, but I could point my intent into a certain direction, and within the trance state I found I could move within that space. So there were two parts in this. One was moving forward and pointing, and moving forward with it. Another one was listening and receiving. I'll do a second part to this video.